Welcome to EDU World Space.
We have three relative velocities. We have the velocity of Juan relative to the ground, and this would be equal to 8.00 meters per second. This would be due north. We have the velocity of the ball relative to the ground. This would be equal to 12.00 meters per second, and this would be 37 degrees east of north. And then we have the velocity of the ball relative to Juan, and this is essentially what we're trying to find. We're asked to find the magnitude and the direction of this vector here. So we can say that first, the velocity of the ball relative to Juan will be equal to the velocity of the ball relative to the ground minus the velocity of Juan relative to the ground. And so we can then say that the velocity of the ball relative to Juan in the x direction would be equal to the positive velocity of the ball relative to the ground multiplied by sine of 37 degrees, because in the x direction, the velocity of Juan relative to the ground has no component in the x direction. So this is going to be equal to 7.222 meters per second. And then we can say that the velocity, we'll write it here, the velocity of the ball relative to Juan in the y direction would be equal to the positive velocity of the ball relative to the ground multiplied by cosine of 37 degrees. And this would be minus the velocity of Juan relative to the ground, because he is traveling essentially with, and this would be due north. And this would be equal to 1.584 meters per second. So essentially, we can find the magnitude of the velocity of the ball relative to Juan, and this would be equal to the square root of 7.222 meters per second quantity squared. This would be plus 1.584 meters per second quantity squared, extend the square root, and this is equaling 7.39 meters per second. This would be the magnitude of the velocity of the ball relative to Juan. And then if we wanted to find the direction, we can say phi would be equal to arctan of the y component, which would be here 1.584 meters per second, divided by 7.222 meters per second. And this is equaling 12.4 degrees. This would be north of east. This would be our final direction of the velocity of the ball, Juan. That is the end of the solution. Thank you for watching.